Welcome to Hudson Valley Unleashed, the podcast that pulls the curtain back on one of America's best-kept hidden gems and the surprising people that live here, New York's Hudson Valley. Listen each week as John, Josh, and Dave have a fun chat with national and local luminaries that will make you beg the question, what don't I know about the Hudson Valley yet? I'm Dave Leonard, former program director of WDST and co-founder of WKZE, host of Radio Unleashed. With me is chef owner Josh Kroner, culinary creative force behind the Hudson Valley's Terrapin restaurant, and comic writer, pop culture expert, and owner of the only black-owned comic book store in New York State, John Michelle. Running the show behind the scenes is Jacob Hutchings, producing the show, keeping us on point, making sure that we all have fun and sound great. Our podcast is supported by...
Looking to transform your space? HV Builders is a boutique construction company based in Rhinebeck, New York. From sleek modern designs to timeless classics, we bring your vision to life with quality craftsmanship. Whether it's your kitchen, bath, or a full home refresh, trust HV Builders to elevate your space. Call or text us at 845-901-9025 and let's build something exceptional. HV Builders, designed with care, built to last.
I got another week in my 50s.
Just lay with it. You're in your 50s. You don't need to qualify that. Enjoy it, buddy. Just thinking that the same thing about how 60 is so fucking close. And I'm like, no. Like you can play with, you'd be like 40, I'm 40. It's no big deal. 50, I still feel young. 60
yeah,
though.
Considering I got more hair than most 40-year-olds, and
your hair is
status.
Your hair looks marvelous.
Dude, you got a lot more hair than I do, and I'm really turning 50 in a month.
All of you combined.
I was about to say, I'm in my last year of my 40s, and I have no hair.
Jesus, dude. Wow.
Are you born 76?
Yeah.
76?
Yeah.
I know. This is why.
If you put on a wig and shave that beard, you'd look like you were 30.
All right, cool.
You got a young face. You do. You just.
It's true. It's just we play the white in the beard because we want people to take us more seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, oh, he knows things.
Yeah. That's what I bumped into Jen the other day, and she was just like, "You're only turning 50? I thought you were at least 10 years older than me." I was like, "No, you look great, but you're just so much more mature than I am." I was like,
we're talking about me.
You know what it is, guys? It's the fucking gray beards you got.
Hey,
I will tell you this. I almost just fermented like last year. I had the box in my hand. I went up. I was at the supermarket, and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
That's not that bad. Like the shoe polishy black stuff that some guys do.
Isn't that just for men?
No,
because you get to choose your color, and there are a lot of different colors you could choose. But you got to start by shaving it like shorter.
I use that stuff. The just
and then,
for men.
And then
so
it's not like a shocking like
red.
Wait, it was
It's like blue or purple blue coloring.
Oh,
and it just dyes a little bit, so the gray's still there.
Okay, go get some just for men.
Yeah,
I have some from like 10 years ago in my closet. I'll bring to you next time as a gift. Okay.
What color is it?
Along with 3 Viagra.
I might take it.
it makes it silver, like a grayish, brownish silver. It does not look natural. Don't do it.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay, so today on the podcast, we are thrilled to welcome my good friend Jonathan Burkhart, a powerhouse in the film industry and a true champion of storytelling. You might know his work from movies like I Dream Too Much, a beautifully tender coming-of-age film, or maybe Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding, where he worked alongside legend Jane Fonda. Jonathan's contributions don't stop there. He's also the co-founder of the Nantucket Film Festival, a cornerstone for celebrating the art of screenwriting and storytelling. Today, we're excited to delve into his incredible career, and you do have an incredible career, Jonathan.
Thank you.
From his early days behind the camera on classics like Dazed and Confused and Do the Right Thing, to his groundbreaking work as a producer and his commitment to fostering new voices in cinema, which I'm actually finding more and more about because I did a lot of research on you, and it's amazing what you've done. I'm actually thrilled to have you here, the man behind the film and longtime Hudson Valley resident, Jonathan Burkhart. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you for the beverage.
You want another one?
Eventually, but hang on. We should talk.
In your role as a producer, what would you consider the most critical part of the process of filmmaking and storytelling? Nobody really knows outside the film industry exactly what a producer does. And I know that you're obviously doing the whole process to get the film going, but what is the most critical aspect of your job?
Time and money. Managing time and money. The Producers Guild of America, created about 20 years ago, works to define it. And there are three main roles. The main role is developing the story. Somebody said, I have an idea for a movie, and wrote a script, and it's 110 pages. And the work is, okay, there's a lot of meat on the bone here. And that person, that producer, can work to refine characters and plot points and this and that. And that one person who works on the story also might say, and my good friend's a billionaire, and she's going to want to finance this. And I know a cinematographer. So you could have one human being with the title producer who does it all. But historically, it doesn't work that way. A different human being goes to get the money, and they're called a producer. All right, so after years and years of doing this, here are the lessons I've learned to tell you what a producer does and what I do specifically. I learned a long time ago what all these roles are. I see people working the way they do. I don't like wearing suits. I ain't doing a friggin' cocktail party at 4 p.m. to woo some billionaire to give me the money. My whole life has been physically telling the story on set, getting it to the first day of shooting, getting it to the last day of shooting, getting it into post-production. I learned a long time ago that I am what is known as a line producer. I sit on the line. Above the line is the writer, director, producers, and the cast members. And below the line is the entire rest of the crew. Camera, hair and makeup, wardrobe, grip electric, set dressing, props, the editor, visual effects, all that stuff. And so I sit right on the line, the photographer, because he was a union photographer for a while. We worked together on jobs.
Our
That's
producer.
Jacob Hutchings,
Yes.
your producer. I went from photographer to carpenter to producer. Anyway, but what I was going to say was that more specifically is that I woke up and realized I do not want to have to just beat the pavement for money, which is an endless Sisyphusian task that goes on forever. I don't want to be a post-production producer where you're just sitting in an edit room and watching the cut, which is an important job. I'm much happier on set. So I get hired to create budgets and schedules, and I talk to the producer and the director and whoever else is involved about what the story is. And what I do is I bring reality to the conversation. Great script, but here's the reality. Without actually any money in the bank, the base inherent cost of your story is going to cost you $5 million. Human beings, like your crew, location rentals, wardrobe, set dressing, props, feeding the crew, putting gas in trucks, the basics. And that's what I do. I do all the basics. But the beauty of this job is that I'm directly right there to have the conversation with the writer, the director, and say the key producer who brought the money in. Are we telling a story that when we shoot it is going to cut together in the editing room? And then two, are we going to capture an audience? Like, is the audience there? Are they going to get this? Which is completely subjective. So which is where I'll say to you, after doing this for 45 years or so, I couldn't give two flying fucks what kind of movie I make. I have made dozens and dozens of love stories, horror films, action adventure, thrillers, comedies, and every time I get a script, and it's fine, I don't fucking know if it's funny. You know, I mean, I don't.
You need a test audience to really tell.
So you are the epitome of the problem solver. You are the person that's like, show me the problem that you have, and I'm going to figure out how to fucking make this shit turn.
We talk about what it takes to get all the way to the first day of filming, how the characters are going to come to life, what we're going to shoot angle to angle, and how it's going to cut together in the editing room. The subjectivity of how a shot is composed, the delivery of a line, that's not my job. That's the director's job. That's the actor's job. So they have to physically do that creative part. My job is time and money. So I'll say, okay, we're going to shoot for 28 days. And we get to our first day of shooting, and all I'm doing is going, go faster, because we have to be out of here in 12 hours or 13 hours. Jacob Hutchings, your producer, and I made movies together where he was my production manager, production supervisor, a number of jobs. And one of the things that we did literally, and all you do is, how fast can we get through the day? How many shots can we get? Is the director like, it's subjective when you ask an actor to deliver a line, whether it's, I have to tell you, I'm really in love with you, or it's a comedy, or you realize that someone's about to stab you in the back, whatever the action is it the right action that's going to cut together? So you do take after take after take. And after a while, I walk on set about 4 hours before a wrap, and I'm going, this next scene you're about to shoot that you want to do in 7 shots, you're going to do in 4 shots, and we're out of here in 2 hours. to allow an hour to wrap out and taillight to get everybody home, to get at least 10 hours of sleep to do it again tomorrow morning. So I'm the guy a lot of times who says no.
Are you the adult in the room?
Oh God, I don't know that I'm the adult in the room, but it's very sad because in some ways there are jobs I'm on where it is solely based on time and money, and you just got to go.
So you never want to work with Stanley Kubrick?
No,
I
no.
mean, if he was still,
but I've worked with.
alive.
So here's the problem: I've worked with lots of directors and creative producers and cinematographers who are very fast. Only once in a while, like every few years, I'll get onto a movie where I literally am emotionally attached to the story, and I get suckered into, let's just do another hour of overtime. Robbing computer to pay Paul and the budget lines going, because we have to tell this. It doesn't happen commonly. That's what I do. I do the mechanics of getting a movie shot and into editorial.
So well, I guess like I'll watch a show and like, oh, there's 10 different producers. They could be getting all the money, and then you're there.
Some of those are producers just in name.
Correct.
Like,
So let's go back to, you guys are old enough to watch TCM, Turner Classic Movies?
Oh, yeah.
Watch movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and read the credits. There's one producer on every movie. And in the 70s, it became 2. And in the 80s, it became 3. And then into the 80s and the 90s, it was like 5. And today, it's like 10. Sometimes there's like 15 of them.
executive producer.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like,
And
Are
there's
they all
all
getting
kind-
money, or that's
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
So a lot of times, each person brought something to the table. There was a time where, however life and culture operated, one person can play this role and pull all the pieces together. But independent film changed all that. You know where the money is, where the star is, and you know where the locations are. The location is critical to telling the story. So the three of you literally pull in the most critical elements of this story coming to life on camera. You each get a producer's credit.
but aren't there also stories of actors being on a film who are like, you want me to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to do that unless you give me a producer credit.
Yeah.
Because they just want that kind of credit on their resume or something.
Everybody wants a producer's credit.
Yeah.
And what does that do for you?
Good. Thank you. That's a
Does
fucking
that just
brilliant.
fill your Wikipedia page or your IMDb? Is that the...
There. Oh my God.
learn
You know,
so- I
can I
love
just
this.
tell you, it's so funny? He and I have made so many movies together, and his mom is a very successful casting director.
We know she was a guest
was-
on our
yeah.
podcast.
Right. And his family's in the entertainment business. So it's so funny to see you laugh, Jacob, because you know the inside of the inside. Is that why you want to produce? Because there is a certain level of, I'm a producer. The vast majority, the reason I cracked 2 years ago is that I'm on these studio movies spending millions of dollars, and the producers I have to report to have never fucking spent a day on set. I did this giant, like $16, $17 million movie for Paramount Pictures. It was the first theatrical film for a kids show called
Blue's Clues.
Blue's Clues.
Oh yeah.
And all the studios, it was Paramount, Nickelodeon, and the parent company Viacom. The pressure was insane. And the two main producers they put on it to physically bring it to life hired me as the line producer. And what I expect from the producers that hire me are that you know what you're doing, you've made movies before, and you know where the job begins and ends. These two guys they hired for some fucking reason. This is the problem with doing a podcast, and I won't say their names, but they know who they are by the title of the movie. They had come from the world of reality television. They had not made theatrical feature films.
That's a whole
The
other animal.
entire movie shot on the island of Manhattan in New York City. And we got for the first day of location scouting, and this of the two, one had never been to New York City before.
What?
Yeah, it was weird. And they were like, we were in Times Square on the first day of scouting. They're like, oh my God, we're in Times Square. This is amazing. I was like, dude,
took
focus
3
on
minutes.
this. Is this going to work? Can we do this? We have to block off all Times Square. This day alone is $300,000. So there are a lot of names that are in producers, a lot of people out there who take this title who can bring something to the table. A lot of times it's money. Like you might need $2, $3, $5, $10 million for a movie, and 7 people each give you $500,000.
So then executive producer is just like the person that's in charge of the whole project?
No, executive, I can tell you right now, and it's in the New York Times article I was just telling you about. It's a fancy title because people don't know it. If you really understand the film industry and the television industry and you're in it for years, you never want an executive producer title. You do not. You are a producer and that's it. You don't want you don't want associate.
So you and to just distill it down, you're a cat wrangler. You are holding all these tails and trying to, because then you have.
It honestly sounds like you're a business owner. That's what I do. Trying to
100%.
balance everything with cost versus my creative vision.
You are 1,000% correct. So you were saying about the radio show that you produce and doing sales and marketing, and then you have to be the DJ and whatnot. So, and you own your store. You know, the world that you're in is the same thing from top to bottom.
One of your first major projects that you worked on, which is also one of the, in my opinion, biggest snubs that the Academy has ever done, was you got to work on the movie Do the Right Thing with Spike Lee.
Yeah.
How old were you?
Yeah.
What was the job? You weren't a producer on that, right?
No.
So what was the job that you were doing?
I was a cameraman. So here's what happens. In 1986, I was living in Midtown Manhattan. I was walking down the street and I ran into this woman. But this woman said, "Oh, hey, Spike Lee is interviewing. He wants to do some music videos and some commercials, and he needs a camera department."
What were you doing at that time?
So this was in the 80s. So I was working as a cinematographer. I was a cameraman. I was a camera operator. I had just gotten into the union. I was in.
Nice.
I was in a thing called NABID 15 that eventually became IATSE. But I was a cameraman. I mostly worked as what is known as a focus puller.
Okay.
I ran the camera department and operated the camera through the lens. And then I upgraded to what is known as camera operator, where my eye is on the eyepiece. And then I become a director of photography, which is where I'm doing the lighting, working with the director, and emotionally composing the shot with the lens sees.
Okay.
For Spike Lee, I met him by pure happenstance with him and Ernest Dickerson. However the interview went, Spike Lee turned to me and he goes, "Okay, I'm going to hire you as my white cameraman." Now, this is verbatim. Here's what he said to me, verbatim. He said, "I'm hiring you as my white cameraman and you're going to train yourself out of a job. I'm going to bring you every black man and woman who want to be in the camera department. You're going to train them. And one day, I'm not going to hire you anymore." And I said, "Okay." And I lasted 4, maybe 5 years. My experiences on the film set with Spike and Ernest Dickerson were absolutely brilliant, just stunning in so many ways. Because, I mean, there's a lot of things I can say about Do the Right Thing, but I worked on Mo Better Blues.
Yeah.
I was on, I think I was on the second or third camera on Malcolm X. I did a bunch of other stuff.
Was it cool to work for Spike? Because it seems like it can be quite a dick at times.
No, he was never a dick. What it was specifically, you know, he had done, what was the movie he did? School Days? He just finished that. And you have to understand, this is the mid-1980s where MTV has exploded. And it's all about music videos.
Him too, like the Nike commercial.
That's what I did. So I literally, just the other day, I was showing pictures of me and Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley, because I used to shoot all the Nike spots with Spike. We would do music videos and it would be UB40. There's a guy named Kevin Ladson, who's one of the most stunning human beings on the planet, who's a prop master. And he started at Spike as a PA and moved all the way up. And he's one of the most in-demand prop masters in New York City now. He wrote something on Facebook the other day about a music video we worked on in 1986 with Miles Davis, I believe it was. Kevin wrote a story on Facebook where apparently on that day of shooting, Kevin did something that caused Miles to get upset and Miles yelled at Kevin. And Kevin wrote about it. I remember going, I think that was my very first job with 40 Acres and Mule and Spike. So to answer your question about working with Spike, you know, I knew he was a young up-and-comer, and I knew he was groovy and cool. He got cooler after Do the Right Thing came out. I was like, this fucking guy clearly has his eye on something. But really what it comes down to, and I'm going to just be very blunt with you, it could be Steven Spielberg, it could be Martin Scorsese, it could be any of the most famous directors in the world. All you want that human being to do is open their mouth at call time and speak clearly. This is the first shot. Everybody over here. It's two people talking, walking through that door. You want clear clarity and direction to the crew. Yeah. So we know what we're doing all the way to the end of the day, every single day. Now, my first bunch of jobs with Spike, that was not him. It was the AD. The assistant directors are like, "Spike, what do you want to do?" And he'll be like, "Oh, you know, let's just put the camera here and see how it looks." And they'd do, "Okay, camera on the dolly." That would be the AD. So I remember being on Do the Right Thing. We shot the whole thing on this one block in Bed-Stuy. And it was one of the hottest days of the summer. It was hot. And everything was on a dolly or on a crane. The camera was constantly flying through the air.
Yeah.
I remember the grip department who would lay the dolly track and put the crane on it. We'd have like 100 feet of dolly track on the crane. We'd be on the camera going like this. Like we'd start here, we'd come up, we'd come down, and then come to a close-up of somebody. And he would watch the grip department laying down the track and leveling it all to a degree where it's like, dude, should you be rehearsing with the actors and not watching these guys? Go to the cast, make sure wardrobe's ready to go, or hair and makeup, or talk about what the next scene is.
I mean,
hang out with the crew.
Essentially like kind of a young artist, like trying to figure out
1,000%
how to use the tools that
1,000%.
They're like, I know I want to make this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I have no fucking...
Spike and I have talked a bunch of times in the last 10 or so years. He is like every young up and coming filmmaker. The passion, the desire, it's insane because when you're up and coming and you're making your first feature film, I'm not Spike in general, but
you're like throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Well, but more than that though, someone gave you money and you have 50, 60 people, crew members who showed up there with camera, grip, lights, wardrobe, hair and makeup. And you're like, oh my God, this is happening. It's not like an artist painting a picture in a studio by themselves. You have 50, 60 people, maybe 90 people behind you all ready to go. And the money's in the bank, the payroll's happening.
And they're all getting union pay. So it's a lot of money.
And you have to learn how to become a collaborative person when you were just a solitary artist.
And I'll say, here's one of the most fascinating things. When we're shooting Do the Right Thing, the climactic moment is when Radio Raheem is murdered by the cops.
Yeah.
A black man killed by white cops. That shit was heavy. I remember we're shooting that scene, and I'm like, how does he know how prominent this is? This is 1988.
Well,
you and I, we're having this conversation in 2025.
I can tell you how he knew.
Right, he knew. But honestly, the way Radio Raheem is choked to death by that cop and that whole buildup that creates the riot and the pizzeria and everything, I was like, this fucking guy absolutely can see into the future. And he knows how to capture characters. He knows how to set a scene and draw the emotion out. And when you watch, I'll never forget, I go to the world premiere of Do the Right Thing with my roommate at the time, Jonathan Larson, guy who created Rent, which we'll talk about. Mm-hmm. And I remember going, holy shit. And it gets released and it just explodes into this huge thing. Now, I will say it's very groovy and cool. But there's literally this part where when I think about all the movies I've made since then, nothing compares to Do the Right Thing. It just doesn't. It's this, the way that cast operated, it was the same cast every day. Sometimes they weren't in scene, but we all showed up every day. The background actors were there every day. It was fucking hot.
And you shot it on location.
We shot the whole thing on location in Bed-Stuy. It was one of the greatest experiences.
Still to this day, one of the most powerful movies ever made. But I will tell you this.
Yes.
As a black man in America, I fucking adore that movie, and it goddamn should have won the Oscar. But I will also tell you, Dazed and Confused is one of the most pivotal movies in my life ever.
So here's what I'll tell you about directors. And I wish I could have Richard Linklater and Spike Lee in the same room. Because my experience shooting Dazed and Confused in 1992, every fucking day on set was like, he's just like Spike. Rick Linklater would hang out with the grip department watching the camera go up on a dolly. Rick, do you want to go rehearse the actors? He was with the crew the whole time. And we were like, hey, Ricky, how do you want to shoot this? He'd be like, I don't know, put on a wide angle lens. Let's just see what it looks like. Are you sure? Because we just shot a wide angle. Do you want to go to a tight? No,
So that's obviously a good way to make a film because it's a hell of a film.
Well, so that you're spot on because it's subjectivity. So now when I work on a movie and a director says, we're shooting this on a 100mm lens, I'm thinking, don't go so tight all the time. Go a little wider. But who am I to say how it's going to cut together in the editing room? It's subjective.
And now a short break. Terrapin Restaurant. From far-flung origins, the world's most diverse flavors meet and mingle here, in the heart of the Hudson Valley, at your table. From elements both historic and eclectic comes something surprising, fresh, and dynamic. Dishes to delight both the body and the soul. Terrapin Restaurant. Open for lunch and dinner and late night until 1 a.m. Montgomery Street, Rhinebeck. And online at terrapinrestaurant.com.
You are now working on the biggest story in your life, which is your life. How do you parse that when all these years you're like, oh, that guy wrote it. All I have to do is find the money and find the time.
So, my best friend was Jonathan Larson, the guy who created Rent and Tick, Tick, Boom. He died the night of the dress rehearsal of Rent, and the next day it literally exploded. This is a guy I spent 13 years with where we were penniless, poor, didn't have any money, and our careers were just like, what are we going to do? And I became a cameraman. Literally, Spike Lee changed it. I had a fucking paycheck on a regular basis. But Jonathan was creating music. I am working on a documentary to tell a story about Jonathan Larson and what it was like when we met in the summer of 1984 through the moment he died and how Rent exploded and Tick, Tick, Boom exploded. And so for the first time in my entire life, I am now the storyteller. Now, it's a documentary I'm about a year and a half into development, and I'm going through a lot of emotional shit because I'm realizing for the first time ever in my career, I have to do all the talking. Not just when the camera's rolling, but what is the story going to be and how am I going to get it, cleared, and how is this all going to work out and cut together in the editing room to capture an audience?
I think you're a natural at this. I mean, I've known you for many years, and
You're very sweet.
Oh, but you always have good stories.
Okay.
That's what storytelling's all about. I've had you over for dinner many times, and you're a fascinating person to be around.
Very sweet.
We've been talking now for a half hour, and
You're natural at it.
I'm completely engaged. In fact, there's a couple things we're going to go back to. I'm like, I can't wait to hear what he has to say about that.
I feel like the difficulty is now you got to talk about yourself.
I do. No, in certain terms. So one of the things I have a team, a producing team and a development team that I'm working with. And over the years that we've been putting the story together, I'm realizing how much I am going to talk about. And what I realized maybe 6 months into is that not only am I doing all the talking, but it's through my perspective. I worry about what the audience is going to see. I want to tell the story about my best friend. I want to talk about us together and what we did and how things went, because we have some insane, brilliant stories. But at the same time, I want to tell the story about his creative process. Here's the thing. Rent's called rent for a reason. We couldn't pay our rent. We had no money. The next day it opens, he's dead on the kitchen floor, and it explodes. That show netted a $1 billion profit mark 7 years in. Holy fuck, that's a lot of money. The process of telling this amazing story where he has changed so many lives is really a huge story. It's a massive story. Rent won the Pulitzer Prize. It won all the Tony Awards. It played all over the world. It's made now billions of dollars.
It's still influencing all of the Broadway shows that are happening.
So here's the most amazing thing. Every time the show ends, there's a standing ovation and people are bawling. 28, 29 years later, it's this insane emotional thing. And it's the power of his writing. It's the power of any writing. Movies can do that. Other musicals can do that. But yeah, so I'm working on this documentary to tell this story where I have to do most of the talking, and it's scaring the shit out of me. But I have to go forward. So literally tomorrow, I start a conversation with Netflix. Netflix financed Lin-Manuel Miranda making Jonathan's musical Tick, Tick, Boom into a movie. And so the Larson family, there's mom and dad Larson who have passed, but it was extremely close. I built the Jonathan Larson estate. When he died, I emptied his apartment. I cataloged everything. And so I'm, if I may, intimately involved with everything he's ever touched or created. Since Rent exploded, the family's management of Rent and then Tick, Tick, Boom is a full-time job. For decades, it's been no to every single documentary. When Christopher Columbus got the rights to make Rent into a movie, they were given rights to make a promotional film to promote the movie, but they did it in the form of a doc. It is mostly promoting the movie as a commercial. And when Lin-Manuel did Tick, Tick, Boom, they did the same thing, but there's never been permission to make a movie. So when I decided I want to do this, I should tell you that since Jonathan died, I've been approached and offered literally hundreds and hundreds of deals to write the book or to make the documentary or make the film about Jonathan Larson. And I've said no, and mom and dad have said no, and Julie, his sister, has always said no. So where I am at today in trying to tell this Jonathan Larson story is our awareness of what was happening around us, like the AIDS epidemic, where everybody around us was getting diagnosed with being HIV positive. And then over the years, we're just seeing people die left and right. And it was the most fucked up thing, but nobody really knew why. And most of the country's like, oh, it's all the fags, all the gays. When in fact, white heterosexual women were getting it and dying. Yeah. Not just gay men or people of color. And it was this bizarre world. So there was that.
It took the golden boy, Rock Hudson, to make it a story for everybody else.
Yeah, correct.
I think it was Magic Johnson really that changed everybody.
Well, no, that was the next tier of it. But when the world found out that Rock Hudson had AIDS,
well, everybody just assumed he must be gay, but everybody knew that Magic was not gay.
The tone of the conversation changed though when you found out about Rock
absolutely. Yeah. So Larson's ability to see into the future and to see things, and the word is prescient. He had this idea, and so the musical Tick, Tick, Boom and the musical Rent have a lot of that in there. But there's also this part about him where he's just an everyday guy. I'll tell you a story that's going to be in the doc that we haven't shot yet. One of the most amazing things that he and I did, because we had no money, We couldn't buy a fucking bag of weed. We couldn't buy alcohol. So a couple things we did. We discovered in the early 1980s that this thing called Soho, New York City, was exploding. And for all these streets that used to be warehouses back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s were becoming these fancy buildings, we'd walk through Soho on Green or Worcester or whatever the fucking Grand Street, and all of a sudden, oh, look, there's a gallery. And there'd be a gallery opening with paintings on the wall with free cheese and crackers and booze or salami or something. And so every fucking Friday and Saturday, we would scour Soho for that next gallery opening and eat for free and look at art on the wall and go, how the fuck did this thing get picked? I mean, because we're judging art, but that's what we did for years.
So you had told me a story about you guys lived, I think it was either right on the border of Tribeca and Soho, that area there.
You're going to name the neighborhood that Jonathan named?
Wasn't it like right near Canal Street?
Yeah. So here's what so we lived on Greenwich Street between Canal and Spring.
Right.
And one day we were looking, it's like 1988, 89, and we're looking at a map of New York City. And then back then you'd look at a map and everything had street names. But when you get below 14th Street to the far west side, the far east side, like Chinatown, there was areas that were grayed out. The streets weren't shown because it was warehouses or something. We lived in that area on Greenwich Street between Spring and Canal all the way to the Hudson River. And all the neighborhoods had certain names. So Jonathan wrote a letter to New York Magazine or something, and he named our neighborhood. So it goes, NoHo had just been named. It was Soho, NoHo, Tribeca. He named our neighborhood Assho. And it was great. And literally, and you look at Manhattan, you come down, and there's the poop end, all gray.
Asshole.
Yeah, man.
I really do want to cover the Nantucket Film Festival, which, I mean, that's quite an
Jonathan
accomplishment.
Larson. So Jonathan Larson and I it's October of 1984, 2 years before we launched the film festival, the year that Jonathan died and rent took off. So I grew up in Nantucket with my mom, dad, sister, and brother. We were the poor folk. Dad was the art teacher at the high school. We had no money. Because everybody thinks when you lived in Nantucket, where all the billionaires are. No, that was not us.
Do the Millons for the billionaires.
Not us, yeah. So
I feel like that's Rhinebeck.
it's changed. It reminds me of Nantucket in the 80s and 90s. All these fucking rich people are coming. I shouldn't say that. You beautiful, lovely rich people keeping the economy going.
Yeah, man.
Driving up prices. So there was a thing where Nantucket, all the restaurants would shut down Columbus Day weekend. But for all the locals who worked in the restaurants, once Columbus Day was over on Monday, Tuesday through Friday, all the restaurants had parties with just the staff and a few of the locals. And you'd eat whatever was left in the coolers or in the fridge. You would know this, John.
Restaurants became terrapin.
I would know this because I actually did work in a seasonal restaurant. I worked out in Montauk for a season.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So same sort of thing.
And so we'd go every October once Columbus Day was over, and for 4 days, get profoundly shit-faced and eat the best food. So this one of these weekends, and on this particular weekend, it was actually Monday, Columbus Day itself. And in one day, Jonathan and I ran into 4 filmmakers, just people we knew between LA, just happened to be there, all who had just finished a film, like, dude, man, I just finished a film, I want to show it to you. And we get into town. One of them was Ben Stiller, an old friend of mine who grew up in Nantucket in the summer times with his mom and dad, Jerry and Ann. And I remember saying to Jonathan at one point, everybody's making a film. You know what we should do? Let's come back next year at this time, and we'll invite all our friends with their new work, and we'll let's start a film festival, get a keg of beer, and we'll talk about filmmaking. Jonathan goes, right, but we're going to focus on writing. It's all about writing. It's all about script. That shit that comes out of Hollywood is made. The finance department and marketing says no, to capture an audience about dick and fart jokes or big tits or something. And Larson was right. So we focused on the art of writing. We created the Nantucket Film Festival as a screenwriters film festival, which, by the way, walking here in 2025 in June is our 30th anniversary. When Jonathan got financed to do Rent in 94, 95, it was supposed to have a 3-week run at the New York Theater Workshop, and that was it. So as he's building this musical, for the first time ever in his life, something financed, we were also building to launch the first Nantucket Film Festival, which once Rent finished its run for 3 weeks, we go and we launch this Nantucket Film Festival. He dies, Rent explodes, and I asked my sister Jill to join me, and we launched it. And here we are 30 years later, focusing on the art of writing.
Nice, man.
It's interesting. I'm kind of getting a theme here. So you had Jonathan Larson as this creative guy, and you were the guy that got shit done. So you kind of went into this career.
He got a lot of shit done.
But that's what you do as a career. Like, as a
Yes.
producer, you
Yes.
get shit done. So you've kind of said, I'm not the storyteller. I'm not the guy. I'm going to be the guy that gets shit done. But now you're kind of finding your voice, it seems, because you are a storyteller.
And we're barely talking. We're just kind of, enwrapped by what you're saying. You're a great storyteller.
Listen, if I can get this film about Jonathan financed, I'll be happy. I don't know how much it's going to be. Am I going to make $1? Am I going to make $10? But I want to make the film.
There's more like there's more of an artistic integrity in store than there's financing, but you do need that to make it a reality.
Right. And part of the problem I have with telling this Jonathan Larson story is that, again, the Larson family has said no for 28 years. I have said no for 29 years.
Yeah, but you're both saying yes now.
And now we're saying yes. So the weight of the world is on my shoulder. I cannot fuck this up. Like, I really want to make sure.
I think we have time to talk a little bit about Hollywood crumbling, and then we'll wrap it up with our final.
Fuck you.
Final question.
Fuck you.
That's what he's paid for. That's why he gets the big
Oh my
bucks.
God, you're such a
being
producer.
He's being you.
And now a word from our sponsors. Whether you're upgrading your service panel, installing new lighting, or setting up smart home systems, DB Electric delivers safe, reliable work every time. Proudly serving the greater Hudson Valley region, we offer honest advice to help you make the right call for your home or business. DB Electric, powered by experience, driven by trust. Call or text us at 516-754-9399.
The question, which you had kind of thrown out there, is that you said you have not spent any time on the set.
Yeah, we're in a very weird time. Go
Is
ahead.
it crumbling or is it just
It's doing both. It's doing two things.
It's finding a new.
It's trying to find a new pathway. So here is the world. So what I'm about to say, I am not the authority to state that this is exactly what's happening. However, I am in all the unions and guilds, and I have been for decades, and I talk to hundreds of people because I am a line producer.
Your boots on
I
the
am
ground.
the guy who hires everybody. I have crews not just in New York. My crews are in Chicago, Texas, New Mexico, Los Angeles. They're all over. So I know hundreds, if not thousands, of crew members. The pandemic was a bizarre moment when all of Hollywood was like, holy fuck, the whole planet is sheltering in place. Fucking make more content. I made 7 movies between 2021 and 2022. It was the most insane time. A ton of material was made because Hollywood's like, there's nothing but people subscribing to Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and Hulu, HBO, and whatever. So the pandemic ends, and then there was a huge strike. Long story short, nobody physically goes to the movies anymore to the numbers that were the Hollywood standard since the 20s and 30s. Now, here's what I can tell you. Any finance department in any Hollywood studio or mini major or small production company, it's based on revenues. That's how you decide how much money you have to finance the next film. Those numbers in accounting are completely gone because nobody goes to the movies with any frequency. Wicked's the biggest thing out right now. You can go to a movie on Saturday night and there's 20 people in the audience of a 200-seat theater. People don't go. So you have streaming services. Netflix, Amazon, and Apple have reported that their annual subscriptions have dropped a certain percentage point. People are not doing it. They can do the algorithms. If dinner's over at 7:30 and it's like, hey, let's watch a comedy on Netflix or something, whatever it might be. Those numbers are plummeting, and here's why. The entire planet is staring at their iPhone watching TikTok and Instagram. They're watching TikTok and Instagram instead of turning on the TV, or the TV's on and they're looking at their phone while the next episode of Slow Horses is playing or something of the nature. So
If
social
they know about
media,
Slow Horses.
social media, and I don't mean to point fingers, but the whole planet is spending all their time looking at their phones to such a degree that any finance or marketing department at a studio or production company knows that the revenue streams are plummeting to such a degree that nothing's getting greenlit the way it used to. So what I notice is that thousands upon thousands of crew members are simply not getting hired because jobs aren't getting greenlit and crews aren't getting hired. Movies and TV series are still getting made, but the numbers are much, 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 much smaller. And I do not know how we're going to come out of this. I don't think social media is going to go away. I get onto TikTok or Instagram, and because my son watches soccer, I get a lot of soccer videos or cooking videos of apple pies because Jacob Hutchings' wife has apples and they make pies, or it's big boobs, or it's cat videos.
Which are all going to show up on my feed here in the next 20 minutes.
So let me give you an analogy to why Hollywood's not doing well. So when we were little kids, our parents put us in front of the TV to watch Sesame Street. And in a 30-minute episode, you'd have a dozen to 15 2 to 3 minute segments. Cookie Monster, Bert and Ernie, Miss Piggy, Kermit the Frog. whatever the moment was. We were raised, a lot of the world was raised on these small incremental moments of these hits, these endorphin hits.
Yeah.
Here we are today where I can watch cat video after cat video. Nobody come near me because I'm locked into this for the next 2 hours, watching cats jumping onto a fan or into a garbage can. We've all seen them. But the endorphin hits that we get from the immediate pleasure is cocaine. Now, I don't know if anybody in this room here has done cocaine.
Wait,
Never.
What's
Well, I'm sober 17 years. I'll tell you that right now.
But if you understand the endorphin hit, the cocaine hit, when you go buy a ticket to watch a movie that you kind of know something about and it unfolds in 2 hours, however you're drawn into the story, you fucking bought the ticket, the lights are out, it's an entire room, there's another 150 strangers around you, and you surrender to a process. You buy a ticket to a musical or a play, it's the same thing. Or you go to a concert to hear Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young or SZA. But anyway, the thing about social media is that what I'm worried about is the speed at which information is given to us. Cat videos, huge tits, somebody jumping into an ice pond or whatever it might be causes us to go, or the new cooking video. It's so fast and immediate, it doesn't go away, that anybody saying, I'm going to turn on Amazon and watch the next episode of this for 47 minutes, you're not going to get the cooking hit.
Today's podcast is brought to you by...
At Sproutworks in Rhinebeck, we specialize in landscape and hardscape that lasts. Retaining walls, drainage, and full excavation work. Need a basement install, concrete drilled, or a dump truck on site? We've got the gear to handle the heavy lifting. Locally owned, fully insured, and ready to roll. Call us at 518-567-4928. Sproutworks, built on solid ground.
I'm going to ask the first question. What is your favorite place in the valley?
I hang out on the river. Literally on the river. My son is there all the time getting shit-faced. Where were you? I was at Terrebonne with the guys.
By the way, I love your son. He's great.
You know, the greatest thing is, so I grew up on an island and it's being near this large body of water. So I'll go to Wilderstein, which nobody goes to, and I go right down to the river and I go past the tracks and I sit on the rocks and I hang out on the river. That's what I love. But
You walk with purpose all the way to get to that end.
Oh, absolutely. Seriously. But so I love the river. It's so funny because I lived in New York City for many years, in Los Angeles and on Nantucket Island, which... You're on an island, so you're in the ocean and whatnot. But the thing about the Hudson Valley, specifically the Rhinebeck area, is that it's gorgeous. Every turn in the village is, I can get this, I can get that. I get what I need. But in a minute and a half, I'm in the countryside. I love the village of business and all kinds of activity. And then I love within minutes just being out in the middle of nowhere and on the water. That's what I love. I hope that
Nice.
makes
That's
sense.
a great answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another question. Go ahead. Throw them out there.
Okay, I will ask you, here in the Hudson Valley,
Yeah.
throughout the 4 seasons, every little town, every little community has its little events and festivals and things like that. What's your favorite Hudson Valley event that happens every year?
Oh, gosh, there's a bunch. But you know what I think is really groovy? Are what's the porch concerts that we do here?
Porch Fest.
Porch Fest.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that idea is fucking brilliant. Because you leave your house, you walk around, and there's music on that porch. It could be classical with a guitar. It could be hard, like this last Porch Fest. There was somebody doing fucking thrashing rock and roll, and then a block and a half later, it's like Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and a block and a half later, it's some kind of folksy song, and then a block and a half later, it's literally somebody singing another rock and roll song. But it's free. It's outside. The weather was perfect this year, so that's beautiful. But there's a lot of great things, like the market on Sundays is great. You know, I could go on. Listen, if we need to be in the center of Manhattan, it's an hour and a half away. We have everything we need right here.
Fuck yeah.
There's something unique about the Hudson Valley that you haven't been able to find anywhere else.
What I will say that blows me away about the Hudson Valley, after 20 some odd years of Manhattan, it's like, oh, the coolest and grooviest people are in Manhattan or LA. And then I come to the Rhinebeck, and I've been here for 21 years or so, and I realize that some of the most significant actors in all of Hollywood live here, the biggest actors in Hollywood, the biggest writers and directors, but some of the most amazing writers who write books, chefs, lawyers. We have a lawyer.
We know a chef.
I know, but seriously, a chef. But there's a lawyer in town here. I'm not going to mention his name. If you really knew what he did, he's one of the most significant lawyers in all of Washington, D.C., like massive.
I know.
So there's amazing doctors here, like really high end, because they're like, you know, let's get out. I got married, I had 3 kids. Let's go to the country where I'll be the doctor at Northern Duchess Hospital. I was like, what's your background? I learned what they do. I was like, holy fuck, you're the guy who, perfected X, Y, and Z. There's an amazing population of people here. And Woodstock, I have to say, for some fucking reason, if they're not here, they're in Woodstock.
That's where I am.
Yeah.
Jonathan, it was amazing having you here.
Thank you.
I love your stories.
It is always
I
a
mean,
pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, it's a
The
treat to get to know
opportunity
you.
to have you in my kitchen again, of course, but to be able to really focus on what you're doing and have a little tequila.
Holy cow.
Cheers.
Next time I'll have you over for dinner.
Let's do it.
Bring Isabel again.
Thank you. This is good.
Thanks for listening and spending time with us on Hudson Valley Unleashed. And thanks to our guest, Jonathan Burkhart, and our producer, Jacob Hutchings. And all of our shows are available on Apple Music and Spotify. Feel free to email us at info@hudsonvalleyunleashed.com with any comments, questions, or suggestions. For Josh Kroner, John Michelle, Jacob Hutchings, I'm Dave Leonard saying goodbye. And until next time, stay unleashed.
Yeah, that was
Taking
great.
the mics are off. Unleashed is Unleashed the name of the show?
Hudson Valley
that's
Unleashed.
That's a good title.
Hey, we've been working a lot of them.
Wow, that was just great to have Jonathan here. Holy cow, what a career this guy has had, and he's still going. I mean, starting with Spike Lee and going on to do all of these producing gigs. Wow, I mean, to have him here in the kitchen was really a treat.
He's a stealth Hollywood legend. Like you,
Absolutely.
like I so many times I've been at parties with him and just like hanging out and like people are talking to him and like we're all having a good time. And the whole time I'm just like, none of you know. Like you have no idea.
Oh
who
man,
the
I
fuck
love
this
his
guy
mind,
is.
his brain. What a talent, and just anything he talks about, and he's learned so much, and he's just so thoughtful, like multidimensional, multifaceted, just powerful.
And the funny thing is, he says, "I'm not very good at talking." You know?
Right?
Yeah, the stories that guy can spin, unbelievable.
Yeah,
Really
terrific.
a treat.